The Attorney General made a terrible mistake when he did this and when he recused himself, or he should have certainly let us know if he was going to recuse himself, and we would have put a different. So he made what I consider to be a very terrible mistake for the country. Why don't I just fire Mueller? Well, I think it's a disgrace what's going on. We'll see what happens, but I think it's really a sad situation when you look at what happened. And many people have said you should fire him.
Oh, boy. When the story broke yesterday, I thought, okay, now he's going to fire Mueller. But now, as we're finding out, Mueller handed it off to someone else, kind of indicating that he didn't feel like this was part of what he's supposed to be investigating.
So it would seem.
He's into the whole Russian thing, then maybe he won't fire Mueller, but taking more shots at his attorney general. Anyway, welcome to another day.
It's good to see he lets things go. You know, don't hold a grudge. Sarah Westwood is the White House reporter for the Washington Examiner and joins us now. Another busy day, huh, Sarah?
Absolutely. We're just learning that President Trump is canceling this highly anticipated trip to South America next week. That's obviously going to ruin the plans of a lot of reporters who had gotten their visas and planned to travel down there with him. But it does raise some red flags about maybe just how serious this legal situation is for President Trump.
So for folks just tuning in, Sarah, let's run down exactly what happened yesterday. Is his personal attorney, one of his attorneys' home and office and hotel room were raided, but not by Mueller's people.
Right. What we're learning is that it was Mueller's referral to the DA's office in New York that prompted this raid, but it wasn't Mueller himself, suggesting that this fell outside the scope of the special counsel's review, maybe had nothing to do with Russia, but potential illegal activity came to the special counsel's attention, and he alerted authorities in New York.
Well, although wouldn't he have alerted Rod Rosenstein, who's heading up the Justice Department end of this, who then went to the DA? And I ask that just because, you know, Trump is probably not going to love that coming out of Rosenstein.
Right. You heard in the sound bites that you just played from his comments yesterday that the frustration he was directing at the Justice Department was aimed at Attorney General Jeff Sessions, whose recusal from the Russia investigation caused Rod Rosenstein to have to appoint Mueller in the first place. If you draw a line all the way back, he's still most angry, it seems, at Sessions. And so clearly, this is just going to exacerbate the tensions between Trump and the Justice Department. And it may raise fears among Republicans that he might actually pull the trigger on firing Mueller, which has been sort of a distant hypothetical, but could now be a more real possibility now that someone he loves, Michael Cohen, is in the crosshairs.
So the president had a pretty stressful day going into the day, right? He's going to spend the day trying to decide in what way he uses our military personnel and equipment to, wage warlike acts. That's about the toughest decision presidents ever make. And in the midst of it, while he's discussing this, somebody taps him on the shoulder and he says, hey, your lawyer just got raided? Or how did he find out about it?
We don't know exactly. That's a great question. How he found out, it's possible, just like the rest of us, through news reports. Obviously, the FBI or local law enforcement in New York are not going to alert the media in advance that the raid is happening, but we learned shortly thereafter, after the raid took place, that Michael Cohen's offices had been searched. So I think it'll be interesting to see the extent to which the White House engages on this. Normally when we have questions about the Russia investigation, Sarah Sanders and other press aides just sort of put them off to outside legal counsel. They don't really want to engage on it. But Trump himself has commented more extensively on this development in the Mueller probe than any other development. And so maybe the White House, at his direction, will be more on offense in responding to it.
So what have you heard about why they're looking at Cohen? Is it organizing an NCAA pool or what? What's he allegedly guilty of? Running numbers?
Well, reportedly, one of the reasons is that there's been allegations of potential tax problems, wire fraud, maybe some campaign finance violations. And we had learned actually from Cohen's attorney, I believe, that there was potentially some documents related to the Stormy Daniels payments that were seized. There's been some experts who have speculated that potentially that's just the tip of the iceberg in terms of those kinds of payments that Cohen might have orchestrated through funds that he got from the Trump organization. So there's a lot of questions now about why Cohen is in the crosshairs, but Stormy Daniels is one matter that has been in the news obviously for a long time and had a lot of unresolved questions.
Well, would that trouble the president, or would Cohen just continue to say, "Look, the president didn't know anything about this. I did this on my own." So, I mean,
it depends if the president really didn't know anything about it. If he really had no knowledge.
Wait a
of
second.
it, then I guess
How
there's
did?
no reason.
Don't act like the truth plays a role in this. Can't Cohen just continue to claim that the president didn't know anything about it, and then the president stays clean on this, right?
Unless, there's a paper trail.
Right. So, that gets back to the other question. Why the raiding the office like that? The story was that, as President Trump pointed out yesterday, they were cooperating. They were turning over what they were asked to turn over. So why does the FBI rush into your office then? Did they believe Cohen was in there flushing stuff down the toilet or what?
Well, that's the question I think everyone's asking right now. Why was this sort of strong-arm tactic needed? It's obviously incredibly aggressive for any law enforcement agency to execute a search warrant, especially on an attorney. They're supposed to be attorney-client
and the
privilege.
president's attorney. Yeah. I mean, that's a hell of a move.
So that one would surmise that if law enforcement agents were acting here in good faith, that they have some pretty compelling evidence that they presented to a judge to obtain that warrant. So there's a lot we don't know. As we've seen, anytime there's been an indictment or guilty plea related to this investigation, we see that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're not hearing about because we learned so much from each instance. So whatever comes of this, I think we will realize collectively that there's a lot about this situation that we just don't know yet.
Well, that's obviously true and has been since this whole thing started. So here's a question that maybe this is unfair, only a lawyer can answer. Maybe Joe knows, I don't know, whatever. But so they go in there now, they grab all these papers. Now they're going to go through them and determine what pertains to the specific warrant and what doesn't. And in theory, the stuff that doesn't pertain to the warrant, they leave alone. But if they come across stuff that's, Russians sending money over to Trump Tower and it looks like it might be laundering or something, do they then get to pursue that even though that wasn't part of the warrant? How does that work?
Well, I think, there's also another layer in this, in that they also have to go through all of those papers and determine what is subject to attorney-client privilege. There's one exception to attorney-client privilege, the crime fraud exception, which would mean that if one of Cohen's clients obtained Cohen's services in furtherance of an actual crime, that's the only way that those kinds of materials would be able to be used by investigators. So they also have to have another special team of agents go through and determine attorney-client privilege, in addition to determining what's relevant to the search warrant. So they have to be really careful what they do with all these materials that they got.
Right. And then there's also, Sarah Westwood, the White House reporter for the Washington Examiner, on the line. Sarah, hey, thanks a million for being with us. We appreciate it. Good luck. It's going to be a busy week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, you got it.
Because some people believe this is a fishing opportunity. You come up with this happens, right?
Oh,
you
yeah.
get a warrant for something you can get a warrant for. Mm-hmm. Oh, this Stormy Daniels stuff. Clearly something went wrong here. We need a warrant. Everybody agrees. Then you go in there and you find all the other stuff.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And here's the way they would approach it, even if they could, quote unquote, couldn't use it. So I go in, I do a no-knock raid on the Armstrong Ranch, and I cart off a bunch of stuff. I'm
empty Pop-Tart boxes.
It's my belief that you've been illegally breeding goats and selling them to Guatemala. Okay, so I go in there and
there's no such thing as an illegal goat.
I'm looking for Guatemalan goat information. Meanwhile, I find information that you've also been manufacturing your own Pop-Tarts under the table without proper permitting. Well, I don't have a warrant for any of that stuff, but now I know it in my head. And so I'm just going to happen to go talk to your neighbor who your little memo said something about Pop-Tarts, and I'm going to ask him about your goats. And then eventually, I don't know, maybe I'll somehow get him to say something about Pop-Tarts. So then I'll go back to the stuff that I know is already there with a new warrant saying, hey, I got some weird info about illegal Pop-Tarts. I want to look at that stuff again, and there it is. So you triangulate.
So if you have a warrant to search my trunk, do you need a warrant for that? If you have a warrant to search my trunk because you think there's drugs in there, but you find drugs and a machine gun,
Oh, I'm always confused by this. I should have actually gone to law school.
Well, here's another thing I had to throw out, because I didn't go to law school anything close. I don't know anything about this.
Hey, Mike the lawyer, text me.
I do know this. It's like you're always complaining. There's no such thing as science says. There's no such thing as the law says.
Right.
I've seen some of the top lawyers in the world, including Alan Dershowitz, disagree 180 degrees on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not one answer to this.
Right. Unless you go back to the Magna Carta, read the text.
But so if they go in there looking for... He clearly didn't have that much cash. He went to the bank and said, I need to remodel my bathroom. He got a home equity
Why
loan.
you have to tell the government what you want money for is another question.
Exactly.
It's part of the war on drugs and terrorism.
I'm going to do whatever I want with it. Either I'm a good credit risk or I'm not. Give me the freaking money.
My effing money. Well, it's the Treasury Department, not credit risk stuff.
But anyway,
anything more than $10,000.
But anyway, so you said you wanted to remodel your bathroom. They give you $130,000.
I want a gold toilet. It's going to be expensive.
You give it to a whore to keep her mouth shut before your client
Shut up,
gets
whore.
elected president.
I'd say as I handed it over.
So they get a warrant to that they know that's not good. That's against the law. You've defrauded a bank. You've lied to the bank. And what a terrible crime. America will never endure. So they go into his office and they find all this material on Russia and everything's signed Vladimir Putin. So you think that will be used?
Somehow.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely. Hey, the other thing to know about Cohen is that he's not just Trump's attorney.
I promise to get you elected, signed Vladimir Putin.
He's Trump's fixer. I wish I had a fixer. If there's a problem, Cohen takes care of it.
That would be the greatest. That'd be the best thing about being super rich. The best thing about being super rich would be to have a guy like this Cohen dude handle any crap that comes off. I don't even want to know about it.
Everything from a hotel double billed me to, the Haitian mob is starting to mess with our hotel. I'm on it, boss. I want that guy.